Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. The Lawndale City Council. Thank everyone for attending tonight's meeting. I'm going to ask the city clerk to give the roll call, please. Madam City Clerk.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Mayor Pro Tem Kearney.
Here.
Councilmember Suarez.
Here.
Councilmember Hofmann-Gorman.
Here.
Councilmember Cuevas.
Here.
Mayor Poland Miles.
Here.
All members are present.
Okay, thank you, madam, for roll call. I'm going to ask Councilwoman Hofmann-Gorman to lead us in the pledge.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If you would place your right hand over your heart and look to the closest flag if there is one present, and remove your hat and repeat along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Let's have the public safety report. Let's hear from our Captain Allen. We're also joined by Lieutenant Leo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm here tonight to present the public safety report for March 15th through April 4th. In regards to crime continues to trim downward this year. Robberies are down 35% and burglaries are down 22%. At the last council meeting, I emphasized how the biggest factor in the city's crime rate was larceny theft, which was up 127% compared to last year. I'm happy to state during the larcenies have dropped 30%. I appreciate the communities stepping up to the challenge and making it harder for thieves to steal items from their properties and vehicles. Lawndale deputies continue to make an impact in the community, especially in the area of drunk drivers. On March 21st at 2 a.m. in the morning, Deputy Sandvig observed a vehicle fail to stop for a red light at Hawthorne Boulevard and Marine Avenue. The driver drove reckless while on Hawthorne Boulevard. Deputy Sandvig moved to the vehicle until it became disabled at the Redondo Beach Boulevard exit 405 freeway. There was a strong odor of alcoholic beverage emanating from the driver. The driver was determined to be under the influence and was arrested for DUI and reckless evading and booked at South Los Angeles Station. Also, on March 25th at approximately 5:45 p.m., Deputy Stone Rock responded to a traffic collision on the 4,300 block of 149th Street, where the driver collided into another vehicle. During this investigation, Deputy Stone Rock conducted standardized field sobriety tests, which determined the driver was under the influence of an alcoholic beverage, and he was arrested for driving under the influence and booked at South Los Angeles Station. At the station, the driver blew a 0.1 blood alcohol content, which was double the legal limit. As a reminder, if you plan to drink, please use a designated driver or use a transportation ride service. It can mean the difference between life and death. Last, I would like to thank everyone who participated in the Sheriff's Town Hall. I know it was informative as a lot of questions were asked and answered. This concludes my report, and I'd like to be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Captain, for that report. Are there any questions of the Captain's report? You know, I want to thank you, Captain, for the report, and thank your deputies and your staff for all the great work they do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's move on to item D, oral communications. Hear from the assistant. Let's hear from the city clerk on oral communications.
Okay, there are 3 at present, and I will just go ahead and read them verbatim. From Judith Martinez, Lawndale resident. Hello, my name is Judith Martinez, and I am a sustainability student at California State University Northridge and a resident of Lawndale. Recently, I have become interested and more aware of the billion tons of food waste that is ending in our landfills. Therefore, I have been searching for a location where I can drop off food waste to be turned into compost in my Lawndale neighborhood. Unfortunately, I have found none nearby, and many are miles away from where I live. I called the Lawndale Republic Service, and no information was given to me on where to drop off food waste in my neighborhood. As a sustainability student and a concerned Angelino, I felt I had to share with you the importance of having a disposable location for food waste in our neighborhood. When food waste is not disposed of correctly, it can attract flies and rodents, but it also contributes to climate change, which is one of the problems we have today. Having a place to drop off food waste in our neighborhood can help reduce these issues and turn those foods into fresh compost for our neighborhood trees and gardens. Though the website provides valuable information on how to start your own compost at home or in apartments, it can be challenging for those who have a busy life, don't know how to start, or don't have the space. Although there are other mechanical options to compost at home that can make it easier, these are expensive and potentially out of reach for most consumers. A food waste drop-off location can also be an excellent opportunity to give individuals information about the issues that come with disposing of food into our landfill rather than composting food. Doing this gathers more individuals to be more mindful of how much food is being wasted. If we can visually show our neighborhood how much food is being thrown away in a week or month, it can potentially be a light bulb moment for our neighbors because visualizing something is different than reading about it. And then we have from Randall Abram, Lawndale resident. In February, LA County prosecutors announced bribery and corruption charges against Maywood's former mayor and ex-city officials and vendors. Prosecutors allege former Mayor Raymond Medina took donations during his 2015 city council campaign from contributors whom he promised to later reward with city work. Someone explained to me how fireworks manufacturers can provide donations to Lawndale council members and then be given license to poison residents and yearly disrupt the city through the sale of their safe and sane fireworks. Several months back, Lawndale used taxpayer money to survey residents on fireworks. When the count was not in their favor, they buried the survey, and no mention is made of it until this was brought up in a previous public comment. Is this the reward to the manufacturers that their campaign donations buy? Suppress the truth. Suppress the health concerns residents have when the neighborhoods are blanketed by a fog of carcinogens and ear-splitting explosions. Suppress the municipal code requirements to operate booths because they are run by cronies. We have a 10 o'clock noise ordinance which has been altered to accommodate fireworks. Why is it necessary to prolong the agony of residents with this self-serving 12 o'clock deadline? Is there any other business that is being accommodated in this manner? Let us address enforcing the 10 o'clock noise ordinance, and this will aid in the suppression of mortars blasting through our neighborhoods. Let us suppress even the hint of bribery and corruption in Lawndale by requiring the recusal to vote on fireworks by any member who has a conflict of interest for having received campaign contributions from the fireworks manufacturers or that belong to one of the nonprofits that host a booth. Lastly, enforcement costs should be coming from the booths and manufacturers. Residents pay enough of the cost already. And actually, the third comment is for later in the agenda. And that's all for now.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk, for reading those public comments. Let's see if there's any comments from the diocese regarding the public comment. Let's start with Councilmember Suarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody that gave comments tonight. I had a quick question for staff. I know recently it was mandated by the state to require composting. I'm not quite sure when the regulations go into effect, but if staff could advise, I know we discussed this at length a few years ago regarding what the requirements are and how that's going to go into effect.
Yes, Councilmember Suarez, this is Kevin Chen, City Manager. In response to that question, I'll ask our Director of Public Works, Julian Lee, to provide some comments on that. There was legislation that was passed that does require organics recycling. And so with that, I'll let Julian explain that a little further.
Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, Mayor and member of the council. This is Julian Lee, Director of Public Works. If council remembers, back in February 16th, the council awarded a solid waste consulting services contract to HF&H. And the service that HF&H will provide includes the city becoming in compliance to SB 1383. There are several components to SB 1383, one of them being providing an ordinance by end of this year for organic services to both residential and commercial customers. And another component will be providing educational and also public outreach for their organic collection. So I just want to say that by this time, or by January of 2022, that the organic services will be provided to the residents and the businesses of City of Lawndale.
Thank you. And then I wasn't sure if we could possibly reach out to the resident that had the concern and see if there's any feedback or direction we could give her with regards to her current state of wanting to compost.
Definitely, I'll reach out to her and provide any responses that she needs to have. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, I'll pass it along.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Cuevas.
Actually, I don't have any comments at this time. Councilwoman Suarez asked the questions I had.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent. Councilwoman Hofmann-Gorman.
Hi, I just will echo the same thing, the concerns that I had. Julian just seemed to answer it, and Bernadette asked the question. So thank you, Julian, for answering, and I appreciate you getting back to the resident on her concerns and questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Pro Tem Pat Kearney.
Yeah, just one thing for Julie to check. I believe the city of Torrance has a composting center, not a center, but a site on the park on Prairie and 182nd, I believe. It's right off of Prairie, and the parking area. There's a composting place there. Maybe we can see if we can use that for this young lady.
I'll check them out. I'll talk to Torrance and see if there is a composting facility at 182nd and Prairie, and I'll also ask if our residents could use that facility.
All right, thank you. That's
Thank
it,
you.
Robert.
All right, thank you, sir. I think that's all I want to add. I will add that California, of course, is the first, well, at least at the time, was the first in the nation, the state to require composting of food waste. So it's something that's obviously this is mandated by the state. The city want to have such a program or not. The state has imposed this program on cities. I think it's a good thing that we do, of course, divert these food products from our landfill. As the member of the sanitation district, of course, we operate a landfill, and a lot of the landfills, I can't get into numbers, but a lot of the landfills materials are actually food waste. So this will help obviously reduce the landfill. So I can appreciate this as well. But so thank you for giving us a report on the status of SB 1380. And thank you for the resident for bringing that question to our attention. That's all I have. And I believe that would be it for public comment. Thank both of the residents for sitting in the public comment. Next item on the agenda, our consent calendar, item F. What is the pleasure of this body concerning such?
Robert, this is the Mayor Pro Tem Kearney. If nobody has any additions or subtractions, I'll make a motion that we accept the consent calendar as written.
Okay, the motion's been made by Kearney that we adopt the consent calendar.
Councilwoman Cuevas seconds that.
Councilwoman Cuevas, second the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Debate? Hearing none, I'm going to ask the city clerk to give the roll call on items on the consent calendar, rather. Item F.
Okay, for the consent calendar, Mayor Pro Tem Kearney,
Yes.
Councilmember Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmann-Gorman,
Yes.
Councilmember Cuevas,
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. This next item is item 6. It's actually a public hearing. With that, we will, before I start the public hearing, let's have the staff report.
Good morning, council members. This is Marla Pendleton. I am the finance director, and what we have before you today is a comprehensive fee schedule. We felt with some of our rates going back to the 1980s and then being in all different resolutions that we wanted to take all of the city rates, update them, and consolidate them into one schedule. Because of that, we went out with an RFP and we hired a contractor. It is Clear Source Financial Consulting. They met with all of the departments, looked at the cost of providing services, what we're currently providing, and basically came up with a proposed schedule. This schedule was vetted with our budget subcommittee that we used for the fees, and in some instances, they felt there should be some modifications to the proposed rates. Those are italicized and in red so that you can see which ones have been modified, but we're presenting them to you as a body to look at them today, to have a public hearing, to hear if there's any concerns with these, and we're hoping to adopt the fee schedule that is before you. To discuss the methodology that went into the rate schedule, we have our contractor, Terry Madison, who is the president of Clear Source Financial Consulting, and he would like to give you just a little bit of overview on that. Terry?
Thank you, Marla. Good evening, mayors and members of City Council. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening. I'd like to walk you through just an overview of the fee study process as it relates to Lawndale. And just as a quick sort of setup, as a reminder to the City Council, we are examining what we commonly refer to as user and regulatory fees. So these are fees and not taxes. And when we talk about fees, we're really talking about amounts that are being charged for services that are being provided specifically on behalf of a member or a business in the community rather than for the community as a whole. So communities throughout the state typically use general fund tax revenues to fund services that provide that broad community-wide benefit. So we're using taxes to provide the majority of our public safety services, some of our public works services, our parks maintenance services. But we use fees when we want to fund services that provide a more direct benefit rather than a community-wide benefit. These are things like construction permits, plan review, exclusive access to some city facility. Those kind of scenarios are where we would use a fee rather than a tax. So that's just a broad overview. One more time, just to remind the members of the council and the community that we are not examining taxes in this analysis. We're not examining assessments or utility rates. We're simply examining fees for things like encroachment permits, planning review, sports participation, those kind of things. And so why do cities charge fees and proactively manage them? So cities throughout California conduct studies like the one Lawndale is currently conducting, and they do it as part of their normal business operations. They do it for a few reasons. One is to ensure that fees remain fees and not taxes, we want to identify what is it costing to provide these services and make sure that the city doesn't recover more than it costs to provide the services. It also helps us identify services provided to somebody like a direct recipient of service rather than a community-wide recipient. So direct recipient of service, direct cost recovery. And then also a big concept is this idea of ensuring continuity of service levels. So our community has a service level expectation. We want to be able to continue to meet that service level expectation by recovering the cost of providing those services. So that's why communities go through this on an ongoing basis. Fees, because these are fees, they are adopted by the city council at the conclusion of a public hearing process. So a tax may go out to the vote of the people, but a fee, because there's a sort of a direct recipient of service, these are adopted by the council as long as we meet certain mandates, which is we don't recover more than it's costing to provide a service, and that the fees or the way we allocate costs is proportional to benefit received. So when we're figuring out what does a service cost us, if something is more intensive than another effort, we would say it costs us more than something that's easier to do. So we want this idea of proportionality in cost. If something takes a lot of effort, it's likely more expensive than something that only requires a very minor level of effort. Throughout the report that we presented to the city council, we reference this concept of cost of service. So we reference two concepts significantly: cost of service and cost recovery. I'd like to talk about cost of service first, and then we'll move to cost recovery. Cost of service really takes the city's costs and identifies them. They're compiled into what we would identify as a fully burdened hourly rate. So these are service-based fees. Service-based fees, which means that the primary driver of cost is some form of labor time, either in-house staffing or contract service support that you receive. But what we're trying to do is identify the value of an hour of staff time. And to identify that, we include salaries, benefits, indirect services and supplies costs, indirect labor that supports the direct services department's ability to provide services to the community. So we wrap those costs together to value an hour of labor time, and then we work with staff to identify, hey, how long does something typically take? Is this an 8-hour service? Is this a 6-hour service? Is it a 2-hour service? When we know the fully burdened hourly rate and we know typically how long something takes us, we can identify the cost of service. Alternatively, if we know in a year regulating building activity costs us $1 million, we can look at what kind of revenue is coming in over a 1-year period and figure out how close we are to recovering our cost of service. So that's the concept of cost of service. And then I'll move to cost recovery. For cost recovery, once we identify that cost of service, the cost of service represents the city's sort of maximum fee. If something costs us $100, the city can recover up to $100 from a fee payer. If the city chooses to recover $50 for a service that costs $100, the cost was still $100, but your fee payer only paid $50 of that. So that means the other members of the community paid for the remaining $50 of that cost via general tax revenues. So when we say cost recovery is the difference between what it costs us to provide the service and how much we actually collected from the applicant. If I collected $75 from an applicant for a service that cost me $100, I would say I had 75% cost recovery. Specific to Lawndale, what we found is that amongst the areas that we were examining, these primary development areas, that's where you want to ensure that you're meeting all of your cost of service parameters. We found about $1.8 million in costs and about 1.1 million in annual fee revenues, which means the general fund was subsidizing about 780,000. Some of this subsidy is linked to animal control, so it's really challenging to offset that with increased license fees. You still have to remain somewhat within the region to make sure that you can encourage people to comply. But from the development fees, the current planning fees, the engineering fees, the building permit fees, what we found is that there's about 200,000 in available revenue to the city via fee modification. So that is what's being proposed in this fee schedule. We anticipate about 200,000 in additional fee revenue. What's important to note is that for your current planning fees, most of these fees are collected via deposits, which means if I'm an applicant who needs service, I may pay the city an initial deposit. But if I have a great submittal and a minor project, I may receive some of that deposit back to me if the city didn't need to expend all of those time and materials. On the contrary, if my project is very complex or I'm having problems updating my project to reflect city direction, they may ask for additional deposit, a replenishment of the deposit. But the concept is that it would be a time and materials billing. That is intended to have applicants pay for services received, not less and not more. What's happening now, as Marla mentioned, some of your fees have not been updated for many years, and your hourly billing rate for planning services is at $70 an hour today. So that's a really low hourly billing rate that doesn't reflect the city's current cost of providing those services. So even if I said, hey, I'm going to bill you for the time I spent on this project, I'm going to bill you for 2 hours of time. If I only bill you at $70 per hour, I may still not be recovering my city's cost of service because we have identified an hourly rate of $154 an hour. When we met with the budget committee to discuss this topic, there was a request by the committee to compare outcomes to those of your neighbors. Because you have deposit-based fees, what really is the driver of comparison is that hourly rate. It's how much am I going to bill you for every hour I charge? We looked at agencies in your area, but we were having problems finding an hourly billing rate for deposit-based fees, or we were looking at schedules that maybe hadn't been updated in a decade. So what we decided to do was say, as practitioners, we work throughout the state, and in the last year or two, we've done many of these studies. And so what we said is, what are the hourly rates that we have calculated for planning fee-related services and that municipalities have adopted in the last year as their hourly billing rates? And what we found is Lawndale is at the low end of the agencies we've worked with. So that $70 per hour rate that you're charging today, the lowest rate we've calculated recently, and this was maybe a couple years back, is $143 per hour. our recommendation is that Lawndale would go to $154 per hour. That would recover your costs. And $154 per hour still puts you at the lower end, the mid to lower end of what we're calculating for planning divisions for these types of services. So we feel like very comfortable with that hourly rate calculation. We did a similar analysis for the public works fees. Public works fees, depending on the service that's being provided, they're really built many years ago using hourly rates that range from $75 an hour to $105 an hour. And again, those rates are just lower than what it costs the city to provide those services for today. And so we did that same type of comparison. We looked at agencies we've worked with in the last year or two and said, for these similar types of services, what are their hourly rates for service? And what we calculated for Lawndale is that $150 hourly rate for service represented your typical service cost. And if we average out what your fees are currently using, it's about a $90 per hour average. So you're at the very low end of what we see. And even when we modify, you're still at the lower end of rates we're calculating today for municipalities. We assume high efficiency from your team. There's not a lot of, basically we assume you run a lean and mean operation. We didn't build a ton of overhead into these rates or anything like that. And so that's why we, again, feel very comfortable with the hourly rates that we're calculating and believe they can enhance your cost recovery without taking you outside of the realm of what is being adopted throughout the region right now. The budget committee, in addition to that feedback and that request, the budget committee had 4 standalone requests that they wanted to bring to the city council's attention. So we had drafted this proposed fee schedule, and the budget committee reviewed that and said, specifically for parking permit fees, they wanted to modify any permits that are related to parking to a $30 fee, which is what we've identified as the city's typical cost of service. Right now, some of your fees were adopted maybe a decade ago, that kind of thing. And so your fees range from $5 to $16, depending on the parking permit type. But we're recommending that parking permits are $30. There was also a request to modify permit fees for fireworks stands for nonprofit organizations to full cost recovery. We've identified full cost recovery as $300. The current fee is $150. So the fee schedule before you proposes to move that to full cost recovery. There was a request to increase the kitchen use rental rate. So if somebody's renting a facility and they want to access the kitchen, we have increased the kitchen use facility rates by $50. And then finally, the committee asked if we could recommend a rental fee for use of the snack bar, so like the concession type area. There is no current fee in place, so they asked if we could compare with other agencies in the region and come up with something that's consistent with the other agencies in the region. We looked for this type of rental. It seems like there wasn't a ton to find in the region, but we did find one for Southgate, Linwood, Torrance, and then another agency we work for in Northern California. Southgate's current rates range from $72 to $143, depending on user type, nonprofit group, that kind of thing. Lawndale, we're proposing a very similar fee to Southgate. So we proposed a range of $75 to $150, depending on the user type. Linwood is $100 per day, and Torrance is $100 to $200 per day, depending on the user type. So we feel like we're putting you right within the range of similar communities. So that is the primary feedback from the community or from the committee. This concludes our presentation. I'm available to receive any feedback or answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that report. Before you ask any questions, I'm just going to open up the public hearing at this time. It's 7:06. I'm going to declare the public hearing on this matter. I'm open. Hearing the staff report, let's see if there's any questions before we proceed from the council. Any points of clarifications or questions from the council before we take testimony?
This is Councilmember Suarez. I did have a quick question. I didn't hear the reasoning behind the extra fee for the kitchen use. I think the other ones they discussed how those were cost recovery. I was just wondering if what the reasoning behind that extra fee was. Was it for cost recovery or?
So I was not in the budget committee meeting. I received this feedback, but multiple communities we work with have been asking for a slight enhancement in the kitchen facility rental fee, assuming the likelihood of enhanced janitorial support provided. There's a focus right now on that advanced prep for janitorial. And so the idea is we could catch more of that. That is what our other communities are saying. And I'm thinking that's what the budget committee was also thinking, but they can feel free to chime in.
Copy. So extra sanitizing. That makes sense. Okay. Thanks.
And then, Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Kearney.
Yes,
On
sir.
the last item, the snack bar rental fee. I don't know if we're referring to like the Little League snack bar, a football snack bar, but I don't believe we said per day. I think we said per season on the rental fee. I know Little League, just off my top of my head, during the weeknight games, they don't bring in $75 in snack bar revenue or $150. I think it was per season, not per day. I don't know if Shirley Cuevas would chime in, but I thought it was per day, per season.
Yeah, I thought non-profits were going to be per season, not daily.
We can absolutely modify that to season. We were trying to align you to other communities in the region, but we can modify that to per season and then reevaluate it another time.
I think if we do that with proposed fee for resident nonprofits, I know the probably waiver for that, but non-residents, I think we should go to 150.
I agree. We should just do non-profit residents. Everybody else is okay.
Is okay to do what?
To keep to keep what we currently have.
Right.
Yeah, the hourly.
Okay.
So for nonprofits, nonprofit resident groups is the ones that you would like per season, and the rest can be per day rental. Did I hear that correct?
No.
Okay.
Per season, and the non-residents would be 150 per season, whatever.
Oh, yes. Okay, I follow. So just per season. Okay.
Right.
We can modify that.
Thank you.
Okay. So is it I had made a note here because I was concerned that that Little League, didn't make $75 to $150 per game. So
Maybe back in the 70s.
But let me make sure that so we're saying that the proposed range from $75 to $150, that's going to be per season for such as Little League, but let's say individual organizations that want to use it, how much do they pay per use? Not Little League and seasonal sports, but like if a group of people decide we have an event and we want to use that facilities, how much do they pay?
Mayor, we could say per season or per event for non-seasonal events. We could clarify it that way.
Okay, I think they clarified. Someone's doing a reunion, they want to use it. That's a one-time event for them.
Mayor, this is Mike Estes with Community Services. If I could weigh in here real quick, just to clarify. Yeah, most of those users are going to be Lawndale Youth Football or Lawndale Little League. They'll be fee waivered groups. So essentially what we're talking about is a group that comes in that was just mentioned that reserves the field for an event. In that case, you know, the kitchen or the snack bar can be reserved concurrently with a field reservation. And in those cases, it would generally be, you know, groups that aren't fee waivered. So Lawndale Little League and Lawndale Youth Football, those types of fee waivered groups, you know, I think it's just the way it should be like that. And we may want to consider a per event date, I like that, or a daily rate as well, in case you have somebody that comes in and wants to run an event on the baseball field and wants the snack bar for one day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarification. So let's take some public testimonies. Let's ask the city clerk, is there any written public testimony on this item?
There are no testimonies at this time.
Okay, seeing that there are no testimonies, I will close the public hearing at 7:12. The public hearing is now we'll bring it to the diocese for further discussion. So they clarify that. I am glad to see that we are, you know, although no one likes an increase, you know, on fees or things of that nature, but I am glad to see that we are at least on par with you know, surrounding cities. Seem like it's not seem like it's evident that we've been subsidizing, you know, the cost of these fees and permits, I should say, for quite a while. Glad to see that we are no longer utilizing that practice. You mentioned in your report, Madam City Treasurer, that some of the rates go back as far as 1980 since we have taken a look at the rates. Certainly they haven't kept pace with how much it costs the city to provide those services. So I'm glad we no longer going to be leaking to the tune of $200,000. Which could, for a city with a modest budget, Lawndale, $200,000 enough easy. Anyone else have anything add to the discussion?
This is Councilmember Suarez. I just kind of want to echo, Mayor, what you've said. Some of these rates are older than I am. So I agree, and I'm glad that the subcommittee did ask the question of are those fees, how are we looking in terms of our fees compared to the surrounding areas? And that was the one concern that I had, but it sounds like that was taken into consideration. So I do appreciate staff and subcommittee and everybody else who worked on this. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, what is the pleasure of this body concerning?
Mr. Mayor, this is Greg Murphy. Just before we move forward, I want to make sure we have closure on the snack bar issue. I'm looking at page 97 of your packet, and it's line 5. I believe that based on what the Director of Community Services said, most of our nonprofits have waivers. Line 5 on page 97 shows me that the rates that are proposed are per day. And I just want to make sure we have clarity on what the will of the council is for snack bar rental. It sounds like you're all on the same page with everything else, but before we adopt this, we want to make sure we have this clear.
So let me make sure that I thought I was clear that the nonprofits would be per season, and non-qualifying entities feet per day.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Then I think we're good to go. I appreciate that clarification.
Yes. That being the case, unless there's any other discussion on this item, what is the pleasure of the body concerning such?
Councilmember Suarez, I'll make a motion that we approve the fee schedule.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Kearney. I'll second it.
Okay,
Oh, with the clarification regarding the snack bar rentals.
I agree.
Okay. The motion's been made by Suarez and seconded by Kearney that we adopt the updated regulatory fee. That amendment. With any kind of discussions on the motion? And I'm going to ask the city clerk to conduct the vote.
For item number 6, Mayor Pro Tem Kearney,
Yes.
Councilmember Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hofmann-Gorman,
Yes.
Councilmember Cuevas,
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, madam. Item number 7, update illegal fireworks suppression plans for 2021. That's in the staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. This is Michael Reyes, Director of Municipal Services. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight with an update regarding the illegal fireworks suppression plan. As you recall, staff presented this council with illegal fireworks suppression concepts at a February City Council meeting, and the purpose of this update is to elaborate on specific steps that have been implemented and will be implemented to reduce the number of illegal fireworks that will be used in advance of the July 4th holiday. Illegal fireworks create a number of problems for residents of Lawndale, including noise and air pollution, health and safety issues, and a general disturbance for the community. Lawndale residents were very unhappy with the amount of noise and disturbances caused by illegal fireworks in previous years, and council sought solutions for stopping these illegal fireworks. As illegal fireworks are a problem for several weeks leading up to the holiday, the special assignment officers assigned to the City of Lawndale will be adjusting their schedules so that beginning May 17th through July 5th, SAOs will begin working at 4 p.m. and work until 2 a.m. This adjustment will give the City of Lawndale additional sheriff presence in the evenings when violators are more likely to be using illegal fireworks. In addition to having an extra deputy presence for the weeks leading up to the holiday, 6 overtime deputies will be brought on from July 2nd through July 5th to specifically target what is anticipated to be the heaviest period of illegal firework usage. These deputies will be placed in undercover rental cars provided by the city. This is a plan that has been used successfully by other municipalities to combat violators using illegal fireworks. The deputies in these rental cars will be able to approach violating parties relatively unseen, allowing deputies to confiscate illegal fireworks and to issue citations to the disturbing parties. This represents a more dedicated deputy presence than in previous years, resulting in greater costs. Of course, the number of deputies will have to be determined by the willingness of deputies to sign on for these shifts. Additionally, as deputies will be issuing administrative citations rather than criminal citations, there will be no opportunity for the courts to dismiss these citations as they have in years past. Further, the Municipal Services Department will produce a staff report seeking City Council approval to allow deputies and city staff to issue citations to property owners that allow illegal fireworks to be launched from their property. Unlike in years past, this will not limit the deputies to only issue citations to people that they directly catch in the act of lighting illegal fireworks. Deputies witnessing illegal fireworks from backyards and behind fences will issue partial citations, with the rest being filled out by city staff the following day. To inform the residents of these new techniques, the city will launch an aggressive information campaign utilizing the city website, all social media applications, and more traditional means to inform the residents and property owners of these new enforcement techniques. The goal being to make every resident aware that consequences for illegal firework usage will be more stern than in previous years. The city attorney is also preparing legislation to present to the city council that will establish a progressive penalty so that repeat violators that are issued a subsequent citation for illegal fireworks usage will be required to pay $2,000 per citation received for illegal fireworks usage within a 5-year period. Lastly, at the February meeting, staff presented a concept with the initial fireworks suppression plan, which suggested a resident reporting path, which would have allowed for residents to record their neighbors lighting illegal fireworks and submit this footage to municipal services staff so that citations could be issued based on the submitted video evidence. In retrospect, this seems problematic legally and also would create administrative problems as well as being potentially disharmonious for the community. For these reasons, staff does not recommend moving forward with this concept at this time. The city attorney and the sheriff's department are comfortable that these new techniques for combating illegal fireworks usage will be lawful and effective, and anticipate that we will issue more citations than in previous years and will help reduce the amount of illegal firework activity in Lawndale. Staff expects costs of approximately $25,000 to $30,000 to include overtime for sheriff's deputies, rental car fees, and additional advertising costs. Staff recommends that the City Council review and approve the proposed illegal fireworks suppression plan for 2021. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you for that report. Are there any questions?
Tim Kearney, I have one for either Michael Reyes or Kevin. Have we heard back about the JAG grant yet? Have we heard anything on that yet? The monies from it?
Councilman Pat Kearney, how are you, sir? This is Michael. We have not heard yet, but for the amount, we know the amount. It said it was awarded but not yet accepted. Or excuse me, accepted but not yet awarded. Yeah, we haven't heard beyond that.
Okay.
I did place a call to Washington D.C. this morning and one last week, but I can send an email and try to get further follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is Council Member Rhonda Hoffman-Gorman. Michael, can I just ask you, because I didn't catch it in your presentation and you might have said it, on page 3, middle of the page where it talks about over the 5-year period, lighting illegal fireworks can be issued a $1,000 administrative citation for the first offense and a $2,000 for any subsequent illegal firework offense within a 5-year period. Didn't we talk the last time that we brought this up of even going further as far as if there's a third time, what the third one would look like?
Good evening, Councilwoman Rhonda Hoffman-Gorman. It's nice to hear from you. We did talk about an amount up to $5,000 at the initial one. In speaking with City Attorney Greg Murphy, we did think $2,000 would be more reasonable, and we can still push for that at future meetings. Likely, we're probably only going to be able to do $2,000 for this year.
Okay, but we can look at it again in the future?
Yeah, and I can maybe let Greg speak on that a little bit more, but in just following other cities' examples, 5,000 might be hard to convince that that'd be legal. And I think there was some state legislation that put some limits on that amount.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, Mr. Mayor and council members, there is current state legislation that would increase the penalties under the state fireworks law for the category of violations that would be most similar to possession and use of illegal fireworks. The State Attorney General's office had previously opined that a fine structure based on that state fireworks law would be supportable. So we want to wait until we see if that legislation goes through. And if it does, then we'll come back to you with a change to the ordinance, further increasing the fine. But for now, we'd like to keep it where it is, or as you'll see, it'll be 1,000 and 2,000. And we like to do that because that's more in line with what the state has right now. And so if someone were to challenge it, we believe it's most defensible at this time.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this is Kevin Chun. In addition to what the city attorney just mentioned, the other reason for proposing a $2,000 fine, despite the state legislation not being completed yet, is there are other cities that we've researched that have gone to $2,000. So based on the fact that that precedent, if you will, has already been set, that's why we're recommending to go to the $2,000 mark above our current $1,000 fine structure.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions?
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Kearney. I have one question for Greg. This $2,000, it's per year, up to 5 years, correct? the first year it'll be 1,000. Year 2, 2,000. It goes year 3, 4, and 5 is still 2, 2, and 2. Correct?
It actually, sir, the fine schedule is per violation. So if someone
For the last 10 seconds or so, would you mind restating?
I apologize. No, Kevin, thank you very much. The fine schedule should be in place by the start of June with the new ordinance, which would mean this is a per violation fine. So if somebody is caught using illegal fireworks on, say, June 15th, and then again on July 4th, that July 4th is their second violation. It's pretty serious. And as Michael said, they're going to get the word out about how serious the city is taking this.
All right. Thank you.
Very, very good. I'm liking the direction. I have 3 questions. One you kind of already touched on, but I'm going to ask you to walk us through the compare and contrast the administrative citation versus the criminal citation. Of course, this will be our first time using the administrative. I know the courts won't be able to dismiss the administrative citation, but can you, in terms of compliance, can you walk us through what the idea behind the administrative citation versus criminal?
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that question. This is Michael Reyes. Yeah, the administrative citations will be handled in-house through our current ticketing system, which does our parking enforcement. If you're issued an administrative citation, it won't be going through the courts. It's not a criminal. It's not a criminal violation, so there's the courts are not involved. It's an administrative only citation, which means the process by which the site goes through and gets paid is very streamlined. It's very simple, and it mirrors what we already have with parking citations. There is recourse for residents who get a citation like this. They can have a hearing officer review their case, but again, there's no judge, and there's no courtroom. So the criminal cites that are issued by deputies right now, and I can maybe ask Lieutenant Leo or Captain Allen to speak to this, they have very high standards of what levels or what thresholds need to be met to meet the criminal element. Administrative citations don't have to meet that threshold, and therefore they're easier to uphold.
Okay.
In addition to that, Mr. Mayor, this is Kevin Chun, City Manager. In addition to what Michael mentioned, these administrative citation fines, if they go unpaid, it would go to collections similar to parking citations. So a parking citation can be appealed to a hearing officer, and then once, if it's upheld, then it will have to be paid for. If it's not paid for, then it would go to collections. Again, similarly to a parking citation.
Of a commercial property is allowing fireworks to be discharged from.
That's a good point. We're not relying on him to know. If we want to make sure every property owner, business owner, resident in the community is aware that these are going to be much more stringent rules than in years past, it's very important that we have an aggressive information campaign so that everyone is aware that if you own property in the city and it's being abused either by your tenants or by yourself, if you live there, you will be held liable even if you weren't seen doing the violation. So if someone's having a party at their house, in years past, deputies would not be able to issue a citation if nobody comes to the door and reveals themselves. They were relying upon only visually seeing people doing violations in their front yard or in public areas. Now, if they see any sort of activity, fireworks or skyrockets going into the sky from a backyard or from a commercial area, they will write as much information on the citation as they can, time, date, and what they observed. And then they will turn it over to my department the next day, and we'll look up the property owner, and the citation will be mailed to them.
Okay, so if I'm a commercial property owner and people just decide, at night because we're closed to use my parking lot, would I get a ticket? And if so, what would be my recourse?
Yes, you would get a ticket as the property owner, and your recourse could be to appeal it just as any ticket is appealed. But again, I think if you're a property owner and it's a massive complex where it could have been just kids running in there, and if deputies are only seeing if the deputies who see the violation don't see a party, they just see a couple kids, that'd be something we'd probably likely dismiss.
Okay, so it sounds like you would probably use, especially when it's regard to commercial property.
Correct. It's going to be more relevant to residential properties. If there's some sort of fireworks or barbecue or some sort of party where illegal fireworks are being lit off in the backyards, the deputies would get as much information. They would attempt to make contact, but if no one comes to the door, as what happens a lot, then the deputies could just get all the information they could, and they would give it to my department, and the next day we would use Citizen Serve to locate the owner of the property, and they would be mailed the citation.
Okay, thank you for that. And walk us through the notice plans for property owners, specifically those who are out of state, or not necessarily out of state, but don't live on the premises. Property owners that don't live on the premises.
Yes, sir. Well, we're talking about putting out a citywide mailer. We're also talking about putting like all social media avenues that we currently are available to us, our city website, our Facebook page. We'll plan to utilize the 405 sign. We are also talking about putting up a banner across either Inglewood or Hawthorne Boulevard, and also the message trailer. So there's a number of things we want to put out beforehand. We don't want to seem like we're coming at everyone heavy-handed without notifying them of that. We understand that some people won't know about this, or at least they might claim not to know about this. But again, that would be just based on case by case. If they have a good excuse for why they didn't know about it. But I think anyone living in the city is going to be very well aware of this enforcement.
Yeah, no, I was just concerned about those who don't live in the city but own property. That was just my concern.
Certainly, no, and that is a real thing, and we're not trying to be so heavy-handed where we're just going to randomly start writing tickets. Again, if the person who got the ticket, the property owner, wants to give us his tenant's information, we can take that just as well and write it to the tenant.
Okay.
But Mr. Mayor, it's Kevin Chun. Just to try to answer your question a little more specifically, we can try to look. We have a system that identifies the actual property owners, even if they don't live at those properties. And with our noticing, with the notices that we plan to send out, we can see if we can also include those property owners who may not live in Lawndale. So we'll try to do that as best as we can.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that report. Are there any further questions?
Mr. Mayor, there is one public comment on this item.
Yes, Madam City Clerk, let's have a public comment.
Okay, thank you. From Randall Abram, Lawndale resident. After years of residents bringing suggestions on firework suppressions, this is the first time that finally a comprehensive plan is being considered tonight. The focus on providing additional staffing with an adjustment of scheduling deputies both before and after July 4th may have an impact on the use of illegal fireworks. Will the overtime deputies in rented cars have communications with the 911 operators so they know where the hot spots in the city are located? The emphasis on administrative penalties along with confiscation of illegal fireworks should allow the deputies to process and stop more illegal fireworks. But what is unique in this program is the plan to notify by mail and email all property owners of their liability for citations if anyone in their property blasts off illegal fireworks. It is my understanding that deputies do not have to see a person using illegal fireworks other than it emanates from that property. Communications before July 4th is key to potentially curtailing some of this illegal activity. Years ago, it was recommended that a robocall system be implemented to warn residents of illegal fireworks. Obviously, this system could have many uses for the city of Lawndale. Besides the communication methods mentioned in the report, Will the huge electronic billboard off the freeway be used? There are several street signs in my area warning of the fines for illegal fireworks. There need to be many more in the city. The costs estimated in the report of $25,000 to $30,000 mentioned in the report are not only reasonable, but necessary as an attempt to control the war zone atmosphere during the July 4th period. Although there will be an offset of about $11,000 from grant money, this balance of the cost should not be taken from potential administrative citation fees, but should fund other city purposes. As the fireworks distributors usually walk away with $200,000 to $300,000 in profits, the contribution from them of $20,000 to $30,000 would not lead them into bankruptcy. Hopefully, the city is still exploring this option that is used successfully by the city of Gardena and that the city council previously expressed an interest in implementing. And this concludes the public comments on this matter.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk, for reading the public comment. Bring it back to the dais. Is there any additional questions, observations? Also. Seeing none, I will.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, it's Kevin Chun, City Manager. If I might just add one last comment. I just want the council and the community to know that what's before you tonight is staff's best effort to try to make a dent in the problem that we've experienced over the years. And if we move forward with this program, if the council approves this program tonight, we will learn from it this year, and we can make adjustments over the years to come to try to improve our program and to help to prevent this problem from becoming worse than what it is today. So I just wanted to put that out there that we will observe what we do and we'll learn from it, and we'll try to make it better in the years to come. So thanks for that.
Thank you, sir. With that, unless there's any further discussion, motion, item 7.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilwoman Cuevas. I would like to motion to approve the illegal fireworks suppression plan for 2021.
Okay, so the motion is made by Cuevas. That we approve.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Hofmann-Gorman, and I would like to second that.
Okay, motion is made by Cuevas, second by Hofmann-Gorman, that we adopt firework suppression plans for 2021. Are there any discussion on the motion? And none, I'm going to ask the clerk to conduct the vote on item 2.
Okay, for item number 7, Mayor Pro Tem Kearney,
Yes.
Councilmember Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman-Gorman,
Yes.
Councilmember Cuevas,
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, madam. Now on item J, let's hear from the city managers. City managers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I just wanted to let the community know that the city has been working with Providence Little Company of Mary Hospital to try to bring a mobile vaccination site to the city to help residents become vaccinated from the COVID-19 virus. And as of today, we tentatively have a date of Friday, April 16th, when the mobile vaccination site will come to Lawndale. And at this point, I say it's tentative because we haven't gotten yet the final okay from Providence Little Company of Mary that this will happen, but we should know by the end of this week, by Friday of this week, whether or not we can bring this mobile vaccination site here. And once we do get that final approval that they will be coming, we will do everything we can to get this information out far and wide so that as many of our residents know that they can obtain their vaccinations here in Lawndale, locally here in Lawndale. Now with Providence Little Company of Mary Hospital, they will be providing up to 250 vaccines or vaccinations on that day. So this will be on a first come, first served basis. But like I said, we will try to get information out there and try to get as many of our residents who haven't been vaccinated yet to make an appointment for this. So in addition to that, we're also working with some other hospitals and also with the county to see if we can arrange for additional mobile vaccination sites on different dates. And if we're able to do that, we'll inform the community of those dates as well. So that's all I have for now, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Let's hear from the council. Let's hear from Councilwoman Suarez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I forgot to announce at the previous meeting that I did attend the grand opening for Hirsch Pipe and Supply, one of our new businesses. Very excited that they're coming to Lawndale. I believe they said they were the 25th or 26th location. So that was exciting, especially during this time, to have a new business joining our community. I attended on March 18th the South Bay Cities Council of Government Annual General Assembly. This is put on every year by the COG, and there were a lot of interesting panels, one of which was affordable housing, a hot topic. I thought it was interesting. They council member from Hawthorne brought up how they have a high rental population similar to Lawndale, and so one of her concerns was, how are we looking to promote home ownership, which I think is relevant in our city as well. And I also attended the town hall with Sheriff Villanueva on March 25th. There was a lot of interesting information that was given. And with that, I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Let's hear from Councilwoman Cuevas.
I'm sorry. Okay. On the 18th, I attended the South Bay City Council of Government General Assembly meeting. Very informative, especially they share programs that they have for homeless and seniors, such as housing programs and education and training programs. I also attended a general plan update on the 23rd for the city of Lawndale. On the 25th, I did the town hall meeting with Sheriff. On the 30th, I was part of the Parks Subcommittee. On April 3rd, I participated in a Stop Asian Hate rally put together by the chair of the 72nd ADA and Vietnamese American Club at the Miles Square Park. And on 3/31, I attended a Women in Government Facebook Safety and Best Practice webinar. That will be all.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Hofmann-Gorman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended California Contract City's virtual meeting on the 17th. And I also attended the general plan meeting on the 23rd in the city of Lawndale. I attended on the 25th the meeting with the sheriffs, and although some of the segments actually contained Villanueva, mine did not, and mine was my questions and answers in my meeting were handled by Captain Tardy was the presiding sheriff on that meeting, as well as I attended the community meeting that was, I felt, well attended, and some really great questions came out from the community, and I felt that it was a very worthwhile meeting, that the residents needed to have a platform to be speaking with the sheriff's department, and I felt that it was very educational for all of us. And then on the 26th, I, along with the mayor, were privileged to attend a meeting. I was the mayor's guest with our new supervisor, Holly Mitchell. And I enjoyed that interaction and getting to know the mayors and the district in which she's going to cover. And I'm feeling really confident at this point that Lawndale is going to be on her radar. So I'm excited about this. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pro Tem.
Okay, I attended the sanitation meeting in lieu of you, Robert. You couldn't make it. I attended for a minute California Contract Cities. I attended the Hearst Plumbing Supply opening. Also, I attended the Park Subcommittee meeting. And then I need to know if we could put on the next agenda update on the Baymont Hotel, because I know Long Beach, the Baymont in Long Beach was bought by the county for Project Home Key. I know they keep extending it. I want to know if there's any legal way we could stop that. Also, when the city is going to open again, I think we're going to Orange Tier very soon. And on the weekends, Robert, I don't know if you've been walking around, but by my house, there were taggers all over the place. We have graffiti on the corner of my street on Manziel. Across the boulevard, there's graffiti. I think it's time that we bring back our weekend graffiti team. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Robert.
Hey, Pro Tem, thank you for that update. I want to remind people of the state of California have their Housing is Key initiative for landlords and renters who are looking for relief concerning COVID. This is a way where the rent could be basically subsidized for rent relief. That program just kicked off, so if anyone's interested, if you're a renter, landlord, go to their website at housing.ca.gov/COVID_RR for all the details to see if you qualify for rental relief if you are a renter or landlord. I did attend the sheriff's pre-meeting as well as the sheriff's community meeting. The community meeting was a very good community meeting. A lot of questions was asked from the community. Very good questions. They shared with us, of course, the stats, here in the city of Lawndale, and we are doing pretty well as far as reducing crime is concerned. I mean, obviously, the petty theft is up a bit, and of course, speedy, that kind of ebbs and flows, goes up and down. So, I want to thank the sheriff and Captain Allen for putting on that community meeting, as well as our chief Tardy, who used to be our captain here. I also attended, along with the city manager, a meeting with Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She had a kind of an impromptu meeting with some of the area mayors within her district concerning appropriation funding for the members of Congress who will have the opportunity to quote unquote pitch, because they use this term, pitch projects within their districts for small funding through the appropriations process. So we got a briefing on that, and we will be submitting a project in the hopes of receiving some of the money from the appropriation. I also attended the South Bay COG General Assembly. It was interesting this year because, of course, it was digital. My interest was pretty much in housing and homeless issues. I did have opportunity to ask a couple of questions about homeless services. In particular, my question was, even though they may or may not be in the body who was responsible for answering it, but I posed the question anyway. The question was concerning Measure H. We as a county voted for Measure H, and my concern was whether or not the city of Lawndale is receiving the appropriate amount of funding from Measure H. Lawndale, that doesn't mean that this money goes directly to the city of Lawndale, but Lawndale is included in the populations of formerly bill for funding for homeless services. And with that, it should be a certain level of services in the city of Lawndale that's in proportionate to, to the city's contribution. I'm not sure on the answer to that question, and I still have not been able to get a satisfactory answer to that question. So pose that in one of the housing workshops, but I still haven't really got a satisfactory answer. So we're still working whether or not the Lawndale is getting all that's coming to them from Measure H, because we voted for Measure H, and just need to know because I don't really see it in terms of reduced homeless activities. I may be wrong, but someone to share that information with me. I also attended a Stop the Asian Hate rally in Artesia that was hosted by Artesia council members, as well as a Cerritos council member. I also attend as Councilwoman Hofmann-Gorman mentioned, introductory meeting, if you will, with our current supervisor, Holly Mitchell. I came out of the meeting I'm excited about having Holly Mitchell as our supervisor. I look forward to working with her on our concerns here in the city. Lawndale, I do that our calls will be answered. So I'm pretty excited about. I'm actually pretty excited about the staff that she's put together too, because there's some stellar people on her staff. So I want to thank her for putting on that meeting, as well as Councilwoman Hofmann-Gorman for accompanying me to that meeting as well. And with that, that's all I have. Back to Indy. All right, so no closed session tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawndale City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, April 19th. It is now 7:53, and this meeting is adjourned.